code. Let's get the membership over 1,000. You can do it. Thanks.
Thank you, Riza. Thank you, Riza. Appreciate that. Next up is our first keynote. I'd like to invite Nolan Bushnell and Ruth Rassool up here. We've got some chairs situated over on this side here. This will be a panel, a fireside chat. It's my privilege to introduce Nolan Bushnell. He's a pioneering engineer and entrepreneur who co-founded Atari in 1972 and launched the iconic arcade game Pong. 5 years later, he established Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza, and taking over many of our childhoods by merging casual dining with some good old-time arcade games. Over his career, he's founded more than 20 companies, including Catalyst Technologies, one of his earliest business incubators, and Brainrush, an innovative educational software firm. He's inducted in the Video Game Hall of Fame and a Consumer Electronics Association Hall of Fame. Bushnell continues to shape interactive experiences worldwide, guided by his principle that great games should be easy to learn and difficult to master. Now he turns his sights on education and how AI can augment our learning. It's also a pleasure to introduce Ruth Rassool, proud LA resident and College of the Canyons and UCLA alumni. He has a deep academic research background in British, American, and comparative literature, an early adopter of emerging educational technologies. She partnered with Kwai's beta project to integrate Penny, the Gen AI-powered virtual teaching assistant that delivers 24/7 course support for her students. Beyond her work at College of the Canyons, Ruth savors her time at home in Santa Clarita or traveling, particularly back to England, befitting her role as an English teacher. Please join me in welcoming Ruth and Nolan for an insightful fireside chat about AI in education, amplified intelligence through games.
Nolan, hello.
Hey there. Good fun to be here.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to chat very much ahead of time, and I've got lots of questions for you. But I feel like you've been part of my life because there was, many years ago, the then boyish Ruth Rassool.
Was I drunk?
No, you weren't there as such, but when the pubs kicked out, we would go back to his house and I would watch him play on his Atari game console. And then when we arrived in Los Angeles in 1994, the company that Riza was working for took our family to Chuck E. Cheese. That was our first introduction to Los Angeles. And then there have been many birthday parties there ever since. But now I'm more interested in what you're doing with AI in education as an educator. And I've got lots of questions, but I think I've kind of filtered them down a little bit. And this will just be, we'll see where we go. So you advocate for making learning game-like. How do you think AI tutors can complement your vision?
Well, first of all, I'm reminded of the story about Johnny went to school. Teacher said, "What's the difference between ignorance and apathy?" He said, "I don't know and I don't care." An old friend of mine said, "You never want to do anything but start a speech with a joke." Anyway, the reality is that we remember 5% of what we hear, 10% of what we see, and 80% of what we do. So the sage on a stage metric is wrong. And so gamification of education forces a child, the adult, the learner, to remember, because you are engaged. You're part of the activity. We created some software that literally you responded to it every 3 to 5 seconds. And we found that we could create and learn at a rate that I felt that we could do a complete high school, 4 years of high school in less than 3 months. That's good. AI. What AI allows us to do is adaptive. And, you know, I kind of like to set up metrics of how do we know when we've won? And I believe that we have a world in which there are no grades. You say, well, what do you mean? 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, that implies batch processing. And there's so much variability between the way kids learn, the way adults learn, the level of maturity within that age group. A year for a 3rd grader is, you know, from the beginning to the end is really a lot. So batch processing was invented when it was the sage on the stage. Teachers, lecturers, professors, not necessary anymore. We can adapt, and with AI, now the AI can start to ask some questions. How does this person learn? What's resonant? What's effective? Secondarily, it can know when the student is getting bored and maybe needs a break. Typical high school student's attention span is less than 20 minutes. Why are we having classes for an hour or 45 minutes? Wrong. Just a waste of time. That's why disruption can be a problem, because you just get bored. And so, you know, why do you disrupt when you're a 14-year-old boy? Because you're a 14-year-old boy. And anyway, second, no grades, A, B, C, D. What does that imply? It implies competition with other kids. What does that have to do with education? The only thing you should be doing is getting better than you were yesterday. And so, if we can get rid of grades, we will have a system that is more effective, safer, egalitarian, and promising.
I did try assigning grades, talking about A's, B's, and C's. I assigned J's and M's and P's just as an experiment, and people would try and derive meaning from it. It's as meaningless as the A's and B's and C's, so it doesn't work. What misconceptions do you think exist about AI's role in education?
You know, I really haven't heard many people who have dealt with that. I do know this in my tests so far. The kids prefer AI to a college kid who's doing things. Kids universally hate tutoring because they're generally an hour. As I said before, the attention span is less than 20 minutes. And with AI, it's a fingertip away. And so when they want some help, they can get it equivalently. AI right now is not as good at tutoring math as I'd like it to be. And that's one of the things I'm trying to. Language arts, English, foreign languages, history, wonderful. Math, a little bit deficient. I'd say I like to quantify things. I think that we're about 60% of the way there with math and 90% of the way there for most of the other language-based stuff. One of the, I shouldn't go here.
Go on.
One of the things that is a promise and a curse is AI, computer intelligence, in the next 10 years is going to be the knowledge equivalent of the atom bomb. We as a species are very good at adaptive. We're just not very fast at it. And that scares me. So for example, how many people in the United States will be unemployed because of self-driving cars, full self-driving? The typical figure is 15. I think it's going to be more like 25 million people. You know? So not only are we going to get rid of drivers, we're going to get rid of insurance adjusters. We're going to get rid of body shop people. We're going to massively get rid of the number of cars that are manufactured. And then that whole chain of cars manufactured, cars, sold, what have you. And the reason for that is that if you have self-driving robotaxis, you will be able to get an Uber for under 30 cents a mile, because electric cars, nickel a mile for electricity, capital cost of the vehicle, maybe 10 cents a mile, maybe 8, no driver. So then how much profit do you need? 30 cents a mile? That's cheaper than the New York subway. So that's one part. Second part, AI will eliminate 80% of the teachers. Not necessary anymore. It will totally decimate colleges and universities, which is way overpriced and not very effective. The things that a lot of kids are learning will never pencil out in their job skills. And I always believe that we're trending towards a perfect knowledge. Kids are going to learn that, parents are going to learn that, and all of a sudden the whole ecosystem shifts. So that's my dire prediction.
Thank you for that. I'm out of a job now. And I think that is one of the, maybe it's not a misconception, but it is a fear, and that's a barrier for AI in education, because the educators are seeing their jobs perhaps disappear or be adapted. They're still...
Well, here's the problem. Everybody has to be a continual learner. We always have, I look back at my young adulthood as being young and dumb, and I did some pretty interesting things, because the only thing that I had going for me is that most of the other people were younger and dumber, and it was and now that I'm old and dumb, because I'm in that phase of life where just short of mewling and puking, as the bard would say. Anyway, what we really want to do is constantly predict the future and adapt.
I think you've answered what was my last question about what has surprised you from your predictions some years ago. What has turned out to be true, what has turned out to not be true. And then maybe I can combine that, because you kind of answered that already. What do you think should remain human-centered, and what do you think AI can take over? Give me some hope for keeping my job.
One of the things that happens in life is, as costs go away and gatekeepers go away, you have a blossoming of creativity. And so I actually believe that creativity is going to explode in the next little while. And what that means is it's totally unpredictable. That's the nature of creativity, is creating something that hasn't previously done. And so all I can say is that I think that we're going to have an explosion of creativity, which means that we're all going to be shocked, particularly by the good ones. And there's going to be some really bad crap done too.
And you'll still be quoting the Bard, so that's something. Matt has been waving a sign at us. I think we're out of time.
As we should be, because it is. But I want to tell you that that the past, present, and future walked into a bar. It was tense.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nolan. Thank you so much, Ruth. Really appreciate it. Our next keynote speaker is Bruce Schneier.